Foreign actors hiding behind fake accounts abused our platform and other internet services to try to sow division and discord.
People who live in the cities where they can access the fiber optics and the faster internet need to count their blessings.
The second love story, my love of this neighborhood and this community and this business and this food, and that love story is still getting stronger.
All men and women are created equal. Over 13,000 Americans who were wearing a cloth of our country, that were serving in the military, but we threw them out just because of who they were as a person, just because of their sexual orientation, because they were gay or lesbian. And that was wrong.
It was one of hundreds of protests across the U.S. in the days after the 2016 election.
We've elected a man who is a massive racist, misogynist, homophobe, every transphobe, every horrible thing you could think of. He's now running our country. I don't know how this happened. None of us know how, and it's disgusting, so we're making our voices heard.
But this rally was different. Like many others, it was organized on Facebook. But what many protesters probably didn't know is that the group doing the organizing was linked to the Russian government. For months, the news has been Russia wanted Donald Trump to win the election. Well, it turns out they were playing both sides as part of a broad social media campaign before and after the election. The extent of the meddling became clearer this month when executives from several social media companies testified before Congress.
That foreign actors hiding behind fake accounts abused our platform and other internet services to try to sow division and discord and to try to undermine the election is directly contrary to our values and goes against everything Facebook stands for.
One of the main culprits? The Internet Research Agency, based in St. Petersburg, Russia. Over the course of 2 years, Kremlin-linked IRA agents created 80,000 Facebook posts that potentially reached 126 million people. Twitter also found 2,752 accounts linked to the IRA that posted about 131,000 tweets. The content was both pro and anti-Trump. A lot of it wasn't even election-related. In fact, some of it was just nonsense that hardly anyone even looked at. The question is, how big of a difference, if any, did it make in the 2016 election?
Really, we don't have that data yet. And we're talking about, we know it had reach, right? We know it had reach of 126 million people.
Facebook says the Russian propaganda represents a tiny fraction of the overall content posted on its site during that period. But still, some say it's at least possible that it could have made a difference in some states.
Depending on the location, and giving yourself even a low margin of success, a low percentage of success, that's the margin, because the margin was so tight in the election.
Though there is no evidence the Russian content actually influenced the election, many lawmakers are determined to stop it.
You have a huge problem on your hands. You've created these platforms, and now they are being misused. And you have to be the ones to do something about it, or we will.
But do what?
America has rarely seen such success.
One possible step? Make online political ads subject to the same disclosure requirements as TV ads.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
There needs to be both disclaimers when it's clearly a political ad, and then there needs to be some way that it is possible for the government to go back and look at who the source of the ads is and determine whether they're political.
But if social media companies start regulating online content, would that hurt free speech? It's a tricky balance.
So the internet poses unique challenges to democracy. Originally, everyone thought it was an egalitarian force, basically giving voice to the voiceless. And we realized that once you allow anyone to speak to as many people as they want, no matter when they want, that enables certain types of speakers that hold undemocratic beliefs.
And that's an idea that many educators are trying to spread. that bad actors are lurking on the internet, trying to manipulate you. And it's your responsibility to be aware of it, whether it's knowing which news outlet to trust or even what protest to attend. Bill Gallo, VOA News, Washington.
The digital gender divide is real and is actually increasing. The digital gender divide is real and is actually increasing. And even just from research alone that we've done at the Web Foundation, we've found that women are 30 to 50% less likely to be online. And even once online, they're less likely than men to use it for social, economic, political empowerment. So some of the causes that lead to this digital gender gap or divide range from even offline inequalities or previous inequalities actually replicating online. So anything from income, how much income men versus women earn will actually determine who gets to afford the devices, the cost of continually buying bundles or internet broadband connections at home, everything from how we're gendered and socialized in terms of who gets to speak up, who gets to feel that their voice counts. And so all these factors, we see them are actually lining up.
Experts say in developing countries like Kenya, women are less likely to have smartphones and data plans.
Men are more excited in smart widgets as compared to women. I've just told you because they're excited about the technology. More men are into technology as compared to women.
Sambuli says this kind of stereotyping starts early and contributes to the gender gap in digital literacy.
So there's been a lot of these notions that are sometimes unspoken but are very sort of like embedded in societies. Girls should do the softer stuff in school, the humanities, which are very important, don't get me wrong. But the hard stuff, the engineering, the technology, the math, if a girl sort of like is not really feeling it, it's cool, just go do the humanities stuff.
Like in our school, accessing a computer lab, it was only accessible to girls for a few hours, but for boys they could go for more hours than girls.
GSMA Intelligence, which analyzes mobile data, says 57% of Kenyan women who own mobile phones have never used them to access the internet, compared to 39% of men. In a recent study of 10 developing countries, including Kenya, the World Wide Web Foundation finds that the top reason poor urban women give for not going online is that they don't know how.
If we're saying this is for everyone, we can't turn a blind eye to the fact that just because we spread out the internet, go you forth and spread masts or whatever, we can assume that everybody will be connected. It means we're missing out on ideas. We're missing out on people who would be creating, people who would be generating ideas and contributing to a new ecosystem that's becoming the pillar of many of our lives. So we have to factor that in. We have to monitor it. We have to be very deliberate with the investments that go in to make sure we understand who's not connected and why, and how can we actually take this to them in a way that actually empowers them.
People who live in the cities where they can access the fiber optics and the faster internet need to count their blessings, because we struggle all the time.
I live on Cedar Top Ranch, which is about 27 miles to the nearest town. We have 9 kids. I don't know what makes the signal kind of come and go, because there's days that we can just easily access it and other days we can't.
Just made a stop. That's about the end of its loading.
Last year it really affected one of my daughters, that they had to do most of their homework on their computer. She had to get back to Arnold so that she had the internet access. Arnold is 50 miles away.
A lot of kids that are out here in the middle of nowhere. We're laying fiber optics to provide high-speed internet voice to rural customers. So with the capabilities of high-speed internet, there's a huge learning advantage.
Oh, it can change a lot of things, and the possibilities are endless, and it's great to be a part of that.
Probably 10 days ago, the crews were out laying down fiber optics. We've been seeing them laying line for a couple of weeks. And so we are excited to see them come in here. The rural areas need to be connected to the world just like everyone else. I know my mother-in-law had a dishwasher installed waiting for electricity, and this was in the 40s. So that's what it meant to them, and it would do the same thing for us. The internet would help us tremendously.
There used to be 12 communities in this county. In 1927, there was 2,500 people in this county. We've dried up now to 530 some people. If you do not have the internet, if you do not have the broadband, these young people are going to move away. Our population will dwindle down to nothing but a few big ranchers, and we need these young people.
I can recognize the flavors, so it reminds me of my childhood food as well, even though I'm not Ukrainian.
Recipes to the menu.
Дуже популярні основне меню.
This Momogar restaurant is barely more than a counter and two tiny tables inside an international grocery. Nevertheless, the Nepalese and Tibetan eatery that opened last year has quickly risen to become Yelp's #1 restaurant in Columbus.
Momo is dumpling. We make a lot of dumplings. We are making probably several thousand dumplings a day. We have to keep up with the demand.
Nepalese immigrant Phunso Lama is the owner, chef of Momogar. A recent study shows that foreign-born residents make up more than 9% of the city's population. That has driven a boom in Columbus's ethnic food scene.
So we have ethnic restaurants from over 40 nationalities, and we're often adding new ones. We recently found a market that is offering Sudanese food. Without leaving Columbus, you can explore all these different cuisines.
Columbus food blogger Bethia Wolf launched Columbus Food Adventures in 2010. She guides clients to explore little-known ethnic restaurants, all within a few blocks of one another.
We visit Indian, a Mexican bakery, Nigerian, Vietnamese, and Somali. And then we're teaching them a little bit about their cuisine, about the dishes they're going to eat.
The ethnic food tour is popular among local residents and tourists as well.
I'm from California. It's just a great way to try new foods and meet new people and learn about different cultures. It was great.
The influx of immigrants to the city has also helped revitalize once defunct suburban strip malls as they open shops and restaurants.
There's approximately 150 to 200,000 immigrants and refugees in the Central Ohio area.
Employees, I have about 14 or 15 of them. The reason I have so many right now is I am training a lot of them because we are opening a second location in about 4 weeks.
Lama says she's happy that the flavor she brought from her native home is embraced in her adopted one.
It's almost lunchtime at Chaya Farm to Taco, a restaurant in Washington.
We came out with this seasonal plant-based taco idea, and we weren't sure anybody was going to want it.
So Bettina Stern and her business partner tested their product at a local market.
In an hour and a half, we sold out of those 50 portions, and next week we came back with enough for 100, sold out of them in an hour and a half.
Eventually, she says, 50 tacos in May of 2013 became more than 30,000 tacos just this past April.
I don't think we would be here today if it wasn't for Union Kitchen.
Stern's secret ingredient, a food incubator called Union Kitchen.
We're basically here to give them the resources that they need.
Resources like insurance brokers, tax attorneys, and design companies.
By incubating our members, we're actually putting them more directly in touch with those resources.
70 fledgling businesses using professional kitchens built for chefs without restaurants.
What Union Kitchen does is it allows us to come in and just get started right away with pretty minimal capital.
Nukta Philip Vang owns Foodini, an online restaurant that works with refugee chefs like Majid. Trained to cook in Syria and living in a state of constant war, his parents told him to leave.
وطلعت أنا على الأردن وصرت أشوف مثلي مثل أي واحد آخر.
I fled to Jordan and started to see my city and my home in pictures on Facebook and on the internet. I saw my home in ruins. It hurts me to think about it now.
His birthplace destroyed, Majid's past is now present when he cooks.
يعني أنا اليوم راح
Every day or every week, I'm introducing something new in my way, the Majid way.
Just the way his mom used to make. Now married with 2 kids of his own, Majid has an opportunity made possible by Union Kitchen, Foodini, and his new life far from the violence of war.
For more than a half-century, Veselka has held its own in the fiercely competitive world of Manhattan cuisine. Meaning rainbow in Ukrainian, Veselka, an American-owned diner specializing in traditional Ukrainian comfort food, remains a hidden gem. Family ties brought owner Tom Burchard to Veselka. His former father-in-law founded the place, and he was a bit skeptical of his new American relative.
And he was not happy about me marrying his daughter, because his dream was that his daughter would marry a Ukrainian boy, and he would see his legacy continue.
But Tom learned the business, and when the original owner died in 1974, the family asked Tom to take the helm. Later, Burchard divorced his wife, but stayed on at Veselka.
Unfortunately, the first love story ended. The second one never did. The second love story, my love of this neighborhood and this community and this business and this food, and that love story is still getting stronger.
Once a luncheonette, the eatery is now a full-fledged restaurant, operating 24/7 and serving traditional Ukrainian comfort food.
Our main menu remains the same as it was 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Executive Chief Dmytro Matsenuk has added his own family recipes to the menu.
Short ribs varaniki are popular among our customers. It was my idea.
Ukrainians, Poles, Americans, and Mexicans, Veselka's staff is as multicultural as its clientele.
That food, well, a lot of people have an emotional attachment to that. It's inexpensive, it's not fancy, and people just love that.
Alberto, an executive chef at a Spanish restaurant, is trying Ukrainian food for the first time. He starts with a classic, borscht.
It looks that it's gonna taste so different, but it doesn't. So, yeah, I like it.
He is taken. This comfort food tastes like home.
Every time that you try something new, you are a little skeptical about it, but I feel that I can recognize the flavors, so it reminds me of my childhood food as well, even though I'm not Ukrainian.
Eventually, Tom plans to pass the business to his son and hopes that Veselka will maintain its reputation.
It is about loyalty, duty, honor, selfless service, integrity, personal courage, and respect. I work with the greatest people on this earth. We have 1.3 million people in the Army team, about 1 million soldiers and 300,000 civilians. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't get inspired by them. I never had a dream to serve as Undersecretary in the Army, and I didn't even know what the role was when President Obama asked me to serve in that capacity. And I was in front of my wife, and I said, well, I have to talk to my boss. And she said, take him back, Mr. President, meaning back to Washington. I saw him in Pennsylvania. To learn how you can affect the Army as an institution, but more importantly, how you can affect soldiers' lives and their families' lives. I'm a big fan of public service. I think every American actually should serve. whether it's through the military or Peace Corps or Teach for America. But I think it opens your eyes to a broader experience of being selfless, to be part of a team that's something bigger than yourself. You know, we have 7 core fundamental principles of every soldier in our Army. It is about loyalty, duty, honor, selfless service, integrity, personal courage, and respect. Those 7 core principles is what comprises every single one of our soldiers and every single one of our Army officers. You know, I think a lot of folks think of our military as that we just take orders. We're like everyday Americans. You know, we were raised just like everybody else was, and we take an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But in that Constitution, you know, that I taught to the next generation of military leaders at West Point, you know, it stands for something. It's a blueprint of our country. You know, all men and women are created equal, and yet, you know, we treated over 13,000 Americans who were wearing the cloth of our country, that were serving the military, but we threw them out just because of who they were as a person, just because of their sexual orientation, because they were gay or lesbian, and that was wrong. And I used to question them. I said, well, why do you think during a time of war we should throw out over 13,000 troops that we need, that are Arabic speakers, that are fighter jet pilots, etc.? So when I had the opportunity to go and serve in the Congress, I was going to make a difference. And to me, Judgment Day was always more important than re-election day. I think our country owes our military men and women and their families respect and, frankly, thanks, because they're part of the 1% of America that has answered the call to serve, to stand in front of everybody else and to potentially take a bullet to keep our families safe here at home. And when every American in America goes to sleep tonight, there'll be over 100,000 soldiers in foreign countries serving them and serving their families to make sure they know that their families back home will continue to be safe. You know, I don't have a hard time waking up every day. I mean, I work long hours. There's not a day that goes by that I don't laugh out loud and I'm not smiling about something. My kids, I have a 10-year-old daughter, Maggie Murphy, who's my pride and joy, and my son, Jack, who's 7, my wife, Jenny. I mean, my family makes me smile all the time, my friends, and just life. I mean, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then you should be doing something else. Something about me is that, you know, I'm very passionate about this journey, and I'm excitable, and I want to make sure that, you know, they see that and others see it, because if you just take life for granted, you're missing out.
The Sambisa Forest, a thick jumble of thorny scrub and scattered trees spread across 5 northern states. A portion was set aside as a game reserve, but its once abundant wildlife has been depleted by war. Now parts of the Sambisa are Boko Haram's sanctuary. Aisha goes after a different prey, Boko Haram militants. She is part of a group of hunters who go out in search of insurgents, ready to fight if the situation arises.